Hi guys, so here is the latest lecture for Module 9. I will be trying my best to post lectures for Modules 5, 6, 7, and 8 as soon as possible, and I will be posting your grades for Module 9 shortly as well. Again, sorry for the delay. Life has been incredibly busy here. So anyway, I'm going to move right on and get straight to my talking points for this week. So if I'm whispering, that's because my roommate is asleep and my roommate is my sister. So okay. So first of all, I wanted to shout out to Nancy, who brought up that she really sees that the communication in this class is much better with a larger group as compared to a smaller group in one of her other classes, which I thought was very interesting. And I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts as to why that is. I think that it might be because we have a lot of, there's the requirement in the class, but I wonder also if it has to do with the videos that we had at the beginning of the class in this one. Anyway, I also wanted to say that Megan Laramie's examples for this week were really, really great. I really loved using the example of choosing a place to eat as how to make decisions and in a group, and using the budget to demonstrate problem solving. I thought those were really great, really relevant examples. I also really want to do a shout out to Sabrina for using bullet points, which is mentioned in the syllabus, and nobody else taken up on that. Everyone else has done sentences, but I really love her use of an outline format. It's great. Thumbs up. All right, so April. Let's talk about April. April mentions having a problem with the book, where they say that having many choices makes for better decision making, and she also has a problem with the phases of problem solving. She said that they're kind of redundant with group formation. I thought those were really great points. I also wanted to recommend a really great book. It's called How We Decide, and I don't remember who it's by. I listened to it on a book on tape several years ago. Let me look this up really quickly. But one of the things that they said is it's Jonah Lehrer. One of the things that he says in the book, it has a picture of 3 types of ice cream on it. And one of the things that he says is that people actually have a harder time making decisions if you have a million different choices. And he uses the example of picking jam at a grocery store. You can go to the grocery store and there's like 150 types of jam or jelly or preserves. How the heck do you figure out which one you want? And he talks about little ways in which advertising and grocery stores impact the way in which we decide. It's very interesting. I highly recommend the book. I also highly recommend, again, Invisibilia, the podcast from NPR. I'm going to post again their episode on categorization, because I think that really impacts that. Okay, so moving on. Brian, and like everybody, talked about HALT, the acronym: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And everyone talks about hangry and how, you really shouldn't make decisions when you're hangry. And absolutely true. And I really wanted to point out what another way to think about this is not just for yourself, but to understand that others get these emotions, and it can impact their ability to interact with a group. And for those of you, I have mentioned this before, but Stephen Covey has a book. Obviously, most people have heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so if you are in an interaction and, someone's being crazy and you think they're like just out of control, think about why they are making the decisions or acting the way that they're acting. And identify if they are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And that'll impact how you see that person. And this kind of goes into what we were talking, another thing brought up in this chapter, which is stereotyping based on culture. But I think you can stereotype based on facial expression. I know that well, not stereotype, but judge. So I know I do this to my sister all the time. You know, if she has a certain reaction, I immediately respond in a certain way. And that has to do with, history and us growing up together, and I know her. So, but a lot of times if I take a step back and I think about, I look at why she's reacting the way she's reacting, a lot of times she's hangry. And that really changes my response to her. So I think that can flip it, not just how you respond, but how other people respond as well, and how you respond to their response. Okay. So Cassie brought up dialectical theory. I love dialectical theory. So dialectics is the process by which you taking an argument and tearing it down to its very basic roots. And the reason why I like it, and this has really nothing to do with anything, but I just want to bring it up, is dialectics is basically the basis of communism. So if you look up dialectics, it's actually traced back to the German philosopher Hegel, and Hegelian dialectics is what Marx and Engels based communism off of. So when you talk about dialectics, you're really talking about communism, which, as someone who researches communism and the impact of the Soviet legal system, it's always so much fun to see that in everything that we do. So just a thought. Not that I'm a communist, but something I find interesting. All right, so Kim Matheson brought up the fact that she does a paid vacation for her employees. And the book obviously talks about taking a break to revitalize. One that I want to talk about is what can be constituted as a break. So I, at work, in my full-time job, one of the things that we do is we always end meetings with an icebreaker or just a fun little game. So that way it's almost like it cleanses the palate and creates that bonding. And I wonder, do you guys think that I kind of think that that's double dipping with the whole developing a group. You're doing two things at once. Do you think you can do that? Am I misreading this, or do you guys agree with me? So Kim Burns talked about hidden barriers, and she brought up, what are some hidden barriers, because the book has a whole bunch of list of barriers to problem solving and to decision making. But she asked what these were reported. She pointed out that these were reported barriers. So what are some unreported barriers? And I really wanted to stress that because I thought that was a really great point. And I don't have an answer. It's just something I'd love to get you guys to think about. And she also brought up perception as reality, which is a huge deal for all my military folks out there. You hear that all the time when you're in the Army or any other service, I'm assuming. And I just thought it was interesting to see that in a civilian context. So interesting. Just wanted to point it out. Right. So Mariah noted that fulfilling the person's sensitivity function is not usually seen as a leadership skill. So my question is, can this be changed? Can you integrate this function into or with other leadership skills to be seen and then be seen? Going back to that whole perception as reality thing. With other leadership skills. She also talked about bad data and false statistics. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that statistics can't really be false. I mean, unless someone's just straight up lying, obviously, but the problem is usually not false statistics, it's either one of two things. One, the way in which the data was collected was bad, and in that case, there may have been interviewer bias, the way the question was framed, like, you get a call from a political organization asking, would you vote for Donald Trump or would you vote for Hitler? And everybody answers Donald Trump because Hitler's awful, of course. So what the statistic ends up saying is that 87% of Americans would vote for Donald Trump, but really that's not what they're saying. They are saying that they wouldn't vote for Hitler, right? So that's one thing, and a way in which statistics can be bad, but also they can be interpreted incorrectly, and that's what they were just interpreting. So I wanted to make you think about that. I hope you guys take statistics, take statistics as a class, because it's really important to be a good citizen, I think, especially the way that we consume statistics at this point in American politics and culture. Okay, so Mary brought up random choice. Actually, a lot of you brought up random choice. So, and everybody seemed to have a problem with it, but I want to point out that it's actually very common, and it really does play an excellent role in decision making. So, a really great example I think of is in the movie Armageddon. At the end, when they're pulling straws to see who's going to stay and blow up the bomb, that's random choice. And who's going to be the expert in that situation? Who's going to make that decision? I mean, you may have a minority decision, which, by the way, is also not really a bad thing. That just means there's a leader. The leader is making a choice. The group implements. Is that always bad? No, I don't think so. In the Army, we called it an executive decision. In the absence of orders, you make an executive decision, right? And sometimes it happens. Like, sometimes you have to make that choice. But everyone seemed to have a problem with that. So I want you to think of different ways in which those things could be relevant and really could be pertinent. And last but not least, Owen brought up some stuff about stereotyping tolerating. So actually, I've already talked about this, so I can check that point right off my list. So, if you guys have any questions, I really enjoyed reading your responses for this week. I've actually enjoyed reading them every week, but I haven't had a chance to really record videos. So I'm going to get on that, try and do one every night for the next few days, and try and get that off my to-do list. So, and then of course also I'm going to edit your papers, which I have. I promise I'll get to them. So, if anybody has any really big issues that they need to have addressed, like ASAP, let me know. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.